Hello, good evening, everyone. This is Deidre with Are You a CPS Victim Like Me? Sorry we started a few minutes late, but I'm out visiting my two older boys in Vegas for the week and had some technical difficulties as well, so I'm in the car. But I have my two, I might as well call them co-hosts, joining me this evening, CPS Punisher, otherwise known as Darren, and
Yeah.
Tiff, the Punisher's name today, as is otherwise known as Tiffany. So again, I had a guest scheduled, but people sometimes I think have other last minute, whatever you want to call them, second thoughts about coming on and doing a live show. So that's okay. We're still going to roll through and have some topics to talk about with Tiffany and Darren. But in the meantime, just for anybody out there that hasn't seen the show before, I am a CPS victim myself, as well as Darren and Tiffany. I came along the process and found Mr. Davis, which is an attorney out of LA County. And I do this show under his platform to continue to get the word out there to people that might not know exactly who CP is or what they're all about. So hopefully this show can maybe give you a little bit more guidance, and then you can also then look on Mr. Davis's platform and get more information about him and maybe see if he can actually help you with a current open case or whatever the case may be. So with having said that, anybody that likes or subscribes to the show will obviously help the algorithm at the end of the day and let more people and more people know, because this horrible corruption of CPS needs to stop sooner than later, or we're all just, I don't even know what to say. We'll just go minute, I think. I mean, geez, Louise, family, you tear families apart. I mean, what's left really to live for? But other than that, I guess I've talked enough. And just one more quick thing, anybody watching as well that wants to be a guest in the future, you can always call the 888 number on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. The producer Grace will get you scheduled for one of my upcoming shows on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And then you can come on and share your story about how you might have been a victim of CPS. So other than that, Tiffany, you want to go first, or Darren, whatever you guys want to do for.
Ooh, the pressure.
Tiffany said she went to a webinar, I think, that she was going to talk about.
Tiffany goes to all kinds of things. Tiffany is all over the place. This woman is nonstop from morning till night, till 8 o'clock. And then at 8 o'clock, it's done deal, game over. So you're lucky we even got her this late.
Yeah.
Well,
So
webinar,
Darren,
what was it about?
well, hold on, Darren. Did you get the email so you can pull up some stuff if we need it?
Yeah, I'm getting it right now. I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay. So the American Bar Association actually has been doing a webinar on trying to stop the termination of parental rights all across the country. I've gone to all of them but one, but today they were talking about strict scrutiny and how the state of Alabama actually across the whole United States has absolutely almost no more termination of parental rights.
It's awesome.
Um,
That's what it should be.
right. So they did
But
it.
I have a question. Let's say if that went through, what would happen to the people that technically already lost their rights?
Well,
Whoa, Deidre.
I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of like a good question, though, in a way where how come no one else has to go through what we went through? Like, why can't ours be reversed?
Well, not everybody gets a trophy either, you know?
Yeah, I know. Okay, sorry.
And who's to say that it won't be retroactive? I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
So they did a whole write-up for all 50 states, but it came out of Alabama with two attorneys. And if Spanny's watching, her state that she absolutely hates is on the top, which is West Virginia. They terminate parental rights at a 70% higher rate than any other state.
Jesus.
Why do you think that?
It's one of the poorest states in the nation.
Is that
So
really what?
therefore, nobody can get like private counsel, but I don't think people like us parents can get it anyways. But what do you mean by it being so poor that that's why the termination rate is so high?
Well, West Virginia, like Maine, is in hot water right now with their welfare system.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
They aren't, of course, they're not doing it right anywhere, but they're getting it wrong in more states than not, right? And West Virginia and Maine are the top two. But right under West Virginia is Oklahoma. Unbelievable. I sent Darren a picture because they talk so fast. You got to take pictures real quick. I was taking pictures and I was sending them to Darren. But anyway,
Yes.
so I learned a couple things.
And then she called me and talked just as fast.
Yeah, I did. I did.
'Cause I was
She
trying
didn't
to
want to
read them.
forget.
I'm trying to read these
Didn't
things.
want
You're
to
talking about snapping
forget.
pictures.
And I'm sending you all these things. I had to take pictures. But anyway,
Oh, shit.
now remember, I always talk about the Constitution, the state Constitution, the state Bill of Rights, or Declaration of Rights, whatever it's called in your state, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Well, this lawyer is telling people that are on this webinar, use your state constitution first, because the state constitution actually helps more than the federal one, right? Because there's only a certain amount in the federal one that you can use, which we all know what they are. And then he brought up like 4 points, right? Darren, do you got the points? You got the picture of the points?
No, not yet. I'm working on it.
Okay. So
Oh
I'm
man.
They
not
were
stuck it. I'm not a
saying
robot.
that one of the biggest questions that the state, which they're lawyers, this is what they do, are asking, why are we terminating parental rights? What is the state's interest? And he said that they always come back and say, well, we're protecting the child. Okay, but the child's already removed, right? So what is the state's interest in terminating parental rights? What are you doing? There is no state interest there. Right?
Is it because they get these bonuses if they technically get to adopt out and they can't adopt out unless your rights are terminated, right?
Well, that's the thing. The state's interest is nothing but money.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm trying to say,
That's
though.
not the best interest of the child.
No, yeah, but Tiffany's saying it in a way where when they were asked, they knew what the answer was, but they didn't know how to answer it without saying that it's money.
Right.
Well, that's
So-
like in my perfect situation. My youngest, I lose my rights to only because the foster parents wanted to adopt. But if they were willing to be the legal guardian, like my mom is for my older two, I wouldn't have lost my rights. So it's like they got to make up the mind. And they got to make up the mind because, again, the social worker was pushing for it for obvious reasons. But then also, this is what they came into fostering children for. They wanted to adopt. So they got the perfect scenario. But I kept asking that. So you'd mean to tell me if these foster parents were really who they say they were, like, oh, we want to do whatever we can to get your kid back home, and they're willing to be the legal guardian to give us more time, then we wouldn't have lost our rights, is what I was trying to say. But because they want to adopt, then, oh, well, now we lose our right.
Well, guess
doesn't
why?
make
Guess why Alabama's so successful in not terminating parental rights?
Why?
Because 90% of the children in Alabama are placed with kin. It is up to
family.
the kin
There
to
it is.
terminate parental rights. It is up to their discretion if they want to file a petition to terminate the parental rights. And guess what? They're not terminating parental rights.
And that's how it should be. It really should.
It was just
Well,
mind blowing.
especially in the time frames, that they have, you know.
They also
15
said
out
in
of 22
Alabama,
months is too long, but it's not enough.
well, what happens in Alabama with that situation is if a child is placed with kin, then the 22 months stop because they're with family.
Really?
So what, they don't even then have like a case at all?
They still
The
have a
time.
overseeing, they're still being babysat is what I call it.
So when do the parents get a chance to get their kid back?
Once they're placed with kin,
They have as much time as possible.
the 22 months, it stops.
I know, but let's say, what if it was kin that was kind of like my kind of kin that doesn't want to give the kids back? How do the parents
That's what
go
my
about
kind of kin are.
Well, then
Yeah.
they would have to go to the courts and
Mhm.
file a petition to terminate your rights. And,
So it
and
goes.
what is the likelihood? Hold on, Darren. What is the likelihood of a judge that your kids are already with family are going to terminate your parental rights? I'm going to tell you what it is. 0 to none.
No, what I'm saying is, let's say my kids went with my mom, and then I'm in Alabama, and so because they're with my mom, they really don't have the 22 months or whatever. But I want my kids back now from my mom, but my mom doesn't want to give them back to me. What would I do in that?
It's like a regular custody case. Then you just go to
Oh.
court and fight it out.
Oh, okay. I didn't get that part. I thought you meant the 22 months doesn't exist, therefore there really isn't like a case. So like there's nothing to like work on in order to get your kids back. But okay, I kind of,
What
yeah,
it
I
does
get it
is
now.
it keeps the department from filing
Yeah, it keeps
termination
them being the
cases.
middleman and being the middleman running it all. The only other question I had too is this doesn't make sense to me. So my mom is a legal guardian, so technically she gets paid for my 2 older kids every month until they're 18. But if she were to have adopted, Mr. Davis has said this many times, that a lot of people don't realize that they probably signed something along the way, like in fine print, but they don't really know what they're signing, in the fact that if she were to have adopted them, that the money eventually stops, like sometime soon after the adoption, and they don't get paid until they're 18. So how can when the federal government gives money to the state and pushes for adoption so that these social workers get bonus incentives, how are they in reality still making money if they have to pay these legal guardians all the way up until the kids are 18? Because they're still taking a piece of the money that they're getting before they give it to the legal guardian? Or I just don't see how they would be okay with that, knowing that they're going to be paying this guardian until these kids are 18.
Well, I can't answer that because I don't have an answer to that. But what I can say is I don't get shit, excuse my language, and I've had
For your grandkids?
for a long time. And you know why?
Really? Why?
Because I refuse to sign to contract with the state.
So therefore you don't get any funding? Wow. That's kind of messed up.
That's why it's important to donate to our podcast.
Oh, man. Wow.
I was even told, oh, just go ahead and terminate her rights. I said, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. No.
That's what my mom said. My mom, that's the only thing she's given me out of this whole thing, is she goes, I think one day she'll wake up and realize that she's got to, whatever she's got to do, she's going to do to get her kids back. And I thought, when are you going to wake up and realize that there's nothing that I could do to get them back? Because you're still basically saying it's all comes down to my husband. She doesn't want me to have my kids back as long as I'm with my husband. But it makes no sense because, a lot of other things.
So now she's infringing and interfering in your marriage.
Oh, yeah, that's been from the beginning.
Yeah, but
you have the social workers telling my kids that. Dating to my kids during the case, they'd come to me on visits and say, Mom, did you do what you were supposed to do? What's that? Did you leave Dad yet so we can come home? I was like, who's telling you that? Everybody would tell them that. The social workers, and even my therapist would tell me. And she legit decided that she didn't want, I told her I didn't want to have her be my therapist anymore because that's exactly what she was pushing. You want to know what she actually said to me? She goes, this is what we're looking at right here because I talked to your social worker or whatever. She wants to know, basically, if you realize that unless you leave the father and take him out of the picture, that you will never get your kids back in your home. And also something along the lines of our kids' therapist was about to end for the session, so they were going to get a new one. And it was looking like she was going to be their new therapist. She goes, and I would hate to one day be in therapy with your kids and have to really tell them that the reason why they're never going to go home is because you won't leave the father. And that's when I didn't go to therapy with her anymore. I know they did so many horrible things in my case, I'm telling you, but I didn't know anything. And so I refused to go back. I refused to go back to her, and I wrote this big long thing, and I actually fought my way in order to get another therapist assigned to me. But again, it just pushed everything out further because I wasn't completing all the week consecutively. But I felt like I had valid reasons to. I was like, I dread this therapy every week. I cry before I have to do it. Like, I'm shaking when I'm in her office. She wouldn't even do it over any kind of video or nothing. I had to be in person.
Well, here's the other thing, is you're not guilty of anything. So why do you have to go do all of these things? What's the sense of
because
this?
I signed,
why do I have to go?
I'm
not a guilty party to any of this. So why do I have to? Where is innocent before proven guilty? Where is that? Where is that in this thing?
Well, I think I'm the typical. I signed that stupid safety plan that I didn't know I was signing in the beginning. So therefore I had to do parenting classes.
That contract's invalid. That was done under duress, and it was done under, you didn't know the terms and conditions.
I didn't know any of that.
Therefore, it's no good.
Do you want to
Ford
know the
Avenue
honest
shit.
reason why they ended up terminating our rights or closing our case? Is because the main topic was they also had us doing drug testing. Well, in the beginning, I was
For what?
pregnant with, I don't know, it's just one of our things. Meaning that was not even
That's
the only
just
thing
it.
that we had.
Why? Why were you? You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
what for?
But that was the
I had a
ultimate thing
person
why
come
they
to me last
terminated our
night.
right.
I
That
had
was
a
the
person
ultimate
come to
thing
me
because
last night. They were at the hospital, and they said they want to drug test my wife. What should we do? I said, absolutely not. Do not give them consent of that. So I wrote up a form for them, a form of a submission. Say absolutely not. Do not drug test her. And if they do drug test her without your guys' consent, then you sue the hell out of them. Because this isn't right what they're doing to these prenatal moms or the moms. Because number one, they're
that's the
scaring the shit
ultimate
out of these
reason
people.
why
Excuse my
our case
language.
got closed. Yeah.
But they're scaring these people that are doing drugs into not going to the hospital and getting the help that they need for them or the baby. And then on the other hand, you know what? If the baby comes out fine, it's nobody's damn business anyway.
But my thing is when I first started going to this place, I was pregnant, and they don't have toilet seat covers for the toilets. But the woman comes in there with you anyways and does the whole like in your whole business, right? And here I am, like 9 months pregnant still, and I'm refusing to freaking sit on the toilet without a toilet seat cover. I'm like, isn't this like against health standards or whatever? I'm like, I refuse to do it. So of course, here's me pregnant trying to like pee in this cup, and it's just not happening, right? And so then I pushed for the fact that I wanted to go to a place that had toilet seat coverings, and they would not go for it. I only had to go to their place and all this stuff. So at the end of the day, that's what our final thing was. Why they terminated our rights is because we didn't successfully complete the however many weeks of drug testing. Meaning the weeks that I did go, it wasn't positive, and that wasn't even an allegation against us. But yeah, that was the final straw with our judge, is that we couldn't prove to her that we had clean drug screens for so many consecutive whatever.
Asinine.
Yeah. When here,
Okay,
my only
first of
allegation
all-
was failure to protect, because my husband had mental issues that I tried to get help for him, and then they turned that all around us when they interviewed our kids. And my son said he had constipation issues basically, and said, Dad puts poop in my face, and it all went to the shits.
First of all, the United States Supreme Court has already ruled drug use alone is not enough to remove a child from their home.
That's right.
But that wasn't even our allegation, though. But that's what they used against us at the end of the day.
Right. But my point is, it wouldn't
Yeah,
matter
no, I
if you
know.
were doing drugs or not. That judge had no right to terminate your parental rights.
Right. And CAPTA says,
that's what I'm saying.
CAPTA says if you're in treatment, that you don't get handled by them for drugs anyway. If you are in a treatment program, then you do not get messed with. They're supposed to leave you alone. So that's what it says right in the rules. Right, clear as day. If you are in a treatment program, they're supposed to leave you alone.
My husband did so much therapy that like they would get like a 16-week contract with these therapists, we've come to find out. So my husband would do 16-week, close it off. Then they'd get another therapist for him. Another 16 weeks, close it off. But the third one, my husband finally asked the therapist, like, what's going on here? Why do I keep getting so many? And she broke it all down for him. Every single one of those therapists for him basically wrote into the court for him, stating he successfully has completed all this. He's learned from it. He's engaging. He's doing this and this and this. And still, they never liberalized our visits, not once since day one. I mean, again, but we all know now the story, what it was. They definitely wanted my youngest because of, him being born after it opened. But they just, I don't know. They just knew what their agenda was since day one. And so we were never going to win is how I looked at it. And then, like I told you, they ended up terminating our rights that night, that day after court, when we found out that I had a scheduled visit with all three, like I always did. And I asked if my husband could come for the first time to be with all three of our kids, all of us together. And they allowed it because we were coming back to court, continuing that next Monday. We leave. The foster parents stay with everybody else. We get a message from our court-appointed attorneys an hour later when we're at the visit that they went ahead and basically finished off the case and our rights are terminated. And that's when Darren, I think, said last week when I mentioned this, he said something like, so basically they did something like continued court without you being present. I forgot how you worded it. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess, because that's what happened. We were supposed to go back to court on Monday to finish it. And then it was already finished and done without us even being there. And I felt like they did it on purpose because they didn't want to do it in our face or something. I don't know.
They were being sneaky.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Rule from the bench or something, right? I don't remember what it was, but
yeah, that's what I think you said, something like that. So here we are all together finally. The one and only time as far as other than our goodbye visit, which is so disgusting in itself. But that was the only time that we were really ever together as a whole. And then that's when they basically tell us, in other words, of enjoy it while you have this hour, but guess what? You'll never be together again in the future. I mean, how sick is that in a way? I mean,
45 minutes.
But anyways, talk more about your webinar. Enough about me. Or what else you were going to talk about?
Well, I'm waiting on Darren
Tiffany.
to pull up the 4 facts, the 4 things.
Where is the 4 facts? Because I'm trying to pull up all these darn links that you have. I'm trying to get them all in line.
Didn't she take pictures of them? So look in your gallery of your
What she
text
took
messages.
pictures of is the links. I'm looking
No,
up.
I took pictures of the 4 things too that I read to you. I can't get it because my phone is dead. But anyway,
All right,
pretty much what they're saying is, the first one I
Always
think
waiting on
was
Darren.
go back to the beginning of the case, right? Oh, but here's the best one. And this is why I do what I do. The night they were out here on my property, and even before that at the hospital, I told this wench I was invoking my daughter's and my grandson's constitutional rights. You have to, I can't pound it enough. Start on your constitutional rights, because if you don't, there is no constitutional challenge later in your case. Period. You have to state it from the beginning. I say state it the minute they walk up to your door. Some people will say, well, tell them when you get to court. No, because part of the thing is, even in my daughter's paperwork, it says, Miss Wise is screaming constitutional rights, human rights, civil rights. Yeah, I was, because you violated all of them. At least you know what I was saying. And it was in the paperwork, it's on file, that I inserted all of those before the case ever went any further. You have to
Speaking of
insert
that,
your rights.
Speaking of that, before I forget, real quick, I think I was talking to both of you about this, but I don't think it was on the show, about PSYOPs and how Mr. Davis had a office hours recently. Did I tell it on the show or just to one of you? Okay. So Mr. Davis had office hours, I think last week with somebody that is, about the person, Amanda, that's going to be coming back on and doing shows again. I guess she was a previous host from the past. But Mr. Davis started talking about how recently he was talking to somebody else about something. And he goes, you know what? I don't think I've ever talked about that on any of my shows. Maybe I should. And then he was basically going into the fact of how he thinks CPS basically as a whole, and anybody that comes into contact with him, is another form of psychological warfare. And he said, for anybody out there watching this or listening, I want you to do me a favor and Google PSYOP and see what the definition of PSYOPs is. And then he goes on to read it or whatever. And basically, in enough words, he's like, it's just basically another form of psychological warfare, what they're doing with these families. And so this girl, Amanda, that was used to be a host, I mean, she's, I think, on her way to going to law school herself. And she is an EMT or something like that. But she was kind of trying to do a little devil advocacy with him, which is kind of like cool in a way, because she was like testing him on what he was trying to promote. So it was like good, but like debatable, but not. And so she was like, I don't know if I 100% agree with you on that, because he brought up an example about, I forgot maybe what exactly it was, but if anybody wanted to go back and watch the show, it was like I think from last week, but it was so crazy for me to hear him say it in the way that he said it, because I don't think a lot of people really look at it that way, but really that's what it is. Like they are basic. Oh, this is what he said, the story, one of them. He basically said, okay, so there's 2 sisters. One sister gets her kids taken from CPS, but then gets placed with the other sister, and they have a good relationship. She's also financial support for this sister because maybe she was living with her, emotional support, everything you can imagine. And then slowly but surely, CPS does what they do. And eventually, let's just say at the end, they separate the relationship. They separate the financial support because she's not living with her anymore. She has no mental support. Like everything is stripped away, and she has their kid. You see what I mean? So all of that is like signs of basically psychological warfare. And it's just crazy to think that that's really what it is. And it's like nobody ever seems to think about that.
Well, to me, that's more emotional abuse, right? Because that's what psychological warfare is. It's emotional abuse. If you do that to your child, they're going to take your child and say you're emotionally abusing them.
Yeah, but sorry, I cut you off. I don't know what you were saying before that, but I just thought that if anybody wants to go back and watch that episode from last week, it was really good because he was going on and on and on about all these other examples. And one of them was even like he said that his office is in the process of, I don't know, I think he said suing a city, I think, or something along the lines of what happened in court on the record with a case that he was working on. But again, it's just kind of crazy to think that a lot of people don't even realize. Like, for me, for example, I thought CPS was the typical go and protect kids, save kids. Nothing of what they really are. And then when you talk to people that like my family in the beginning, I remember the feeling I used to feel when I would text my mom and basically say, Mom, don't be saying this kind of stuff to the social worker because at the end of the day, this is what they want you to say. And I really won't get my kids back because they literally are kidnapping kids, stealing them all for money. Her response was something along the lines of, oh, you've really gone off the edge. Like you've really lost it. And it just made me like just boil to the extreme because not only does she want to just stereotype me in any way that she can, even though they're not valid, but that's just her personality. It's like, and then for me to say something that is so truthful, but then for her to feel like that's more validation to think her thinking of me as being, oh, she's really lost it. That's why one day I hope soon that I maybe have a success story to speak about and maybe do like a book like Darren or you or a video or something and just be able to have all those kind of people be able to maybe one day watch it or hear it or read it and just be like, I finally got that feeling of, oh, I thought I was this all those years. Because that's why I don't have any family. They've all turned against me. Every single last one of them. I didn't have much, but I'm alone in this game. And the way that my mom still treats me to this day when I have to deal with her and seeing my two older kids, it really is. She threatened me not to be able to see them for this week for spring break, I think 3 times right up until it happened, all because she found out recently about the whole taxes again. She claims my kids for taxes, but she just now realized that she's not getting a refund for some reason. And she automatically assumed that means I must have claimed them. So we know what that means, she said. If I find out you claim them, you will not see these kids ever again. You could do a Zoom call. I said, I didn't claim them. I had to send her proof of my tax return that I didn't. Then she still didn't believe me. Then she goes, okay, you need to bring me their social security cards. I said, I ain't bringing you their social security cards. She goes, I might need them one day when they start to work. I was like, oh. That's exactly what she would say. Number one, you ain't going to have them when they're that age. But number two, yeah, you would want them to go work as soon as possible, So I said, I lost him. I said, but I got photocopies of them. I'll give you a photocopy. So I made a photocopy. Gave her the photocopy. And then she's thinking she's going to use that to go get them a job. I mean, come on. But I've lost it. You can't use a copy of a social to get a job. It has to be the original.
Mm-hmm. Yep. For your I-9.
But I'm the one that's, lost it. Exactly. But,
Well,
again, it's just.
Look. At the end of the day.
What do you think I would have to go? Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm just curious. I mean, I don't think I want to know, but I think I should know to prepare myself. Let's say in a picture perfect world, I could terminate the guardianship of my mom and get my 2 older boys home. Would CPS be in my life for the rest of my life still?
No. Case is closed.
I know, but you know how they are. I feel like, what if they want to antagonize me for something? Is that something that they could still do, or no, not unless somebody calls in something?
Well, that's why you trespass the whole department, and you also serve everybody with a color of law form and tell them, because at the bottom it says cease and desist.
And they have to abide by that?
Yeah, because it's a warning. You only get one warning. This is your one warning. And if you break this contract, I will see you in a federal courthouse. You keep the original and you serve the department.
Well, when the time comes, maybe I'll have to have you go over that in detail.
Well,
Darren, what else do you have to share? Because our show, we only have like 15 minutes left. You said you had a lot to talk about.
No, you said that. We just
maybe you were talking about all the stuff that Tiffany was sending you. So Tiffany, the webinar is what again? It was in your state, obviously. Was it an in-person thing?
No, she goes to the ABA.
No. It was a Zoom meeting.
Oh, okay.
The ABA. It's the 4th one. I think there's one in April, May, and June's the last one. So there's 3 more.
Yeah.
But I like them because these are real lawyers in real states talking about how bad the system is and how it is like Darren said, it's the civil death penalty for families.
Mm-hmm. It truly is. It really is.
But they do understand that it's going to be an uphill battle, right? Because they're even saying that these family court judges aren't even doing the strict scrutiny test that they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They know it's an uphill battle. They know.
But how many more kids are they going to let? I mean, I've always said it, and I used to say it when I was on Davis's show. This is very simple. I think we've overcomplicated this to the point of we've made this into a $1 billion industry. Maybe not intentionally, or maybe not on purpose, but unintentionally is maybe how it happened. But now this is, because now it's requiring lawyers. Look at how many people are involved inside of a case, one child's case. You have judges, you have lawyers, you have guardian ad litems, you have this counselor, you have that counselor, because now it's not only drug counselors, it's domestic violence counselors. What's going to be the next one? What's going to be the next big one that you got to go to? Like what's going to be the next thing that they're going to say, oh, well, you need to have a counselor for this. Like they're already taking fathers out of the homes at rapid rates. The number one place that they're going right now to take kids aren't at single family homes. It's with the people that have 2 parents. 2-parent homes are the number one target for CPS right now. They do not want kids raised in family homes.
And
Go ahead.
That's just so backwards.
Right. Well, Tiffany and I were talking about it the other day. You know where they're not? They're not down at the projects. They certainly aren't down there getting kids.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of that, they brought up a case in 1970. A white woman was not married, had a kid. She moved somewhere. Anyway, doing the dishes, knock comes on the door. I can't remember if he said it was CPS or the police because he kind of broke up. This judge terminated her parental rights. Are you ready for this? You're going to love this one. Because the father of the child called the police or CPS and said, my child is in danger. He's the only white child in a black neighborhood. And they terminated her rights because of that.
What? Because what? She had a white kid in a neighborhood of black people, and then she lost her rights because of that?
Yes, in 1970. She was with the black dude.
Wow.
Living in a black neighborhood. And they said that the little boy was in danger because he lived in an all-black neighborhood and he was the only white kid. They terminated her rights and gave the father custody.
Wasn't the kid half black, though? They could argue that he was not just white, he was half, or they didn't care?
He was white.
Wow. Oh, full white. So it wasn't the dad's kid?
No, wow. The dad wasn't black. The dad was white.
Oh, I thought the dad was black.
The boyfriend was black.
So 2 white parents had a white kid. Yeah. Oh, I get it. Okay.
All right. So there's 3 levels of scrutiny, huh?
Yes.
There's strict scrutiny, which is the highest level of judicial review used when law infringes upon a fundamental right or classified based on suspect characteristics like race or national origin. The government must demonstrate that the law is narrowly tailored to achieve a compelling state interest. Then there's the intermediate scrutiny, which is this middle review is applied to classifications based on sex or gender and some First Amendment cases. The government must show that the law is substantially related to an important government interest. Then there's rational basis review, which is the lowest level of scrutiny used for most other classifications not covered by strict or intermediate scrutiny. The government only needs to demonstrate that the law is rationally related to a legitimate government interest.
And that's the one they use. That they use the lowest bar.
What they get, oh wow, that's bullshit.
Their little word belief or what is their paperwork? Do you think that there's something about future abuse and they'll check yes? I never knew
they can't predict the future.
Thank you. Had a crystal ball.
They do the future all the time.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So yeah, they were talking about that case. They were talking about strict scrutiny. They were talking about this being an uphill battle. Um, and then there's four of them. One of them was the state constitution on top of the federal one, that they need to bring the case back, and that the state needs to prove what their interest is, right? But of course, the state's not going to admit that they want the money, because then they're going to basically be saying, well, we don't care about the kid. It's just about the money.
Well, so what is at any given point, even at the lowest level, what is the state's interest in a child?
Money.
Understood. But what do they say in the courtrooms to they're not going to say that. We've already established that. But what do they say in the courtrooms that their interest is?
The
They
best
believe
interest.
that there's going to be future abuse.
But what about the situations where the kids get placed in foster homes and they get abused there?
Oh, but see, they don't want to talk about that, right?
But real quick, if they did away with the termination of parental rights, like they did away with that, like nobody can lose their rights anymore, and you had an open CPS case, like how would the structure then be anymore if that wasn't something that they could do at the end? Like what would they technically threaten you with in a way?
Here, this is the goal. Okay. I think this is the goal for these ABA attorneys that are doing these webinars, because they're very vocal. They do say they got to watch what they say because they don't want to get in trouble. The goal is to get rid of, like, we had orphanages, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we have foster care. The goal is kinship all the way. No more foster homes, no more strangers, nothing. Or fictive kin. The goal is to get these kids with somebody who has some kind of relationship with them.
And don't you think that would be better for the child anyways? Like everyone always says, the traumatizing part of kids being placed in a stranger's home versus somebody that they know, a family, a friend, you know? Yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense that it's like that for a reason, or it should be, but it's not. But
they should be.
Do we think that this will ever really happen? Like, how would it have to happen? Each state has to vote on it, or is it a federal thing that if it went that way, it would go all across the states? It's every state individually, right?
Well, right now, Tim Scott's got a bill in Congress, in DC, that talks directly about parental rights and the right to sue if your children are removed and not returned. So if it goes federal, and I think it's going to pass, and I'm going to tell you why, because I pay attention to every state, not just mine. There are more bills now in state legislative people now are looking at parental rights now. All of a sudden, all the states want to start looking at, oh my God, what about the parental rights? Everybody wants to talk about it now. That also tells me that bill is going to pass.
But do you think it means because people like us that are doing these kind of shows might be working? Or why do you think it is all of a sudden that everybody is interested in parental rights? What changed, do you think?
Well, the first thing that changed was the administration. The second thing that changed was more and more people are out, like us, on social media. They're calling their congressmen and their senators, and they're calling these people and demanding answers, because there are not many of me out here, but there's enough of me to say, I put your ass in that seat and you're representing me, and this is what you got to do. Or guess what? Your little 2-year, 6-year term, you might not be coming back, buddy.
No, I really think at the end of the day, as stupid as it might sound, it's really like these social media platforms, because it gives people, like, for instance, me that had never been on a live show before or did a show, a chance to not only speak what they're going through, but stories, and then they connect with other people. And then it's just like we always say, the algorithm, you know, like more people see it, more people are connected to it because they're going through it. And again, maybe all of these kind of people that are doing this are making a big enough, like, I don't know what you want to say, but getting it out there, I guess. I don't know. But I just don't see it ever really going through. I don't know why. I don't see them ever really taking away the termination of parental rights or shutting CPS down. I mean, it's not that I don't want to be positive and think that it could, but I just don't see it happening because, like Darren just said, it would be too many people that are involved that they would really have to, like, almost backpedal in a way and be like, okay, well, now that you noticed that this is all going on, has been going on, and now you've shut it down, what about everybody that was affected throughout all of it? You know, it's like,
But
I don't
here's the
know.
thing. Do you know what they're doing in DC right now? Do you know all these federal workers who are being fired?
No.
What's going to happen? We will never, I don't want anybody to be disillusioned. We will never, ever, ever get rid of child protective services, just like we won't ever, ever get rid of adult protective services, because there are children out there who really do need to be protected, right? And those are the kids they need to be focusing on. I've told CPS workers who call me on the phone and say they're coming to my house. I'm like, you better not step foot on my property. You need to go protect those kids that need protected. My kids don't need you to protect them. They got me. So we will never.
But it's almost like they have to wipe everybody out because they've all been trained, literally trained to be a certain way and take kids for a certain reason. But then they'd have to like start completely over with people that are in it for the reason that they're supposed to be in it.
And that's what's going to eventually happen. Look, I don't know if you watch Shark Tank, but Mr. Wonderful, I forgot his name. He said,
I know who you're talking about.
That Donald Trump and Elon Musk need to cut it to the bare bone. Get rid of everybody. Then you sort through and see who really was doing their job, and you bring them back. That's what needs to happen. That goes for judges, lawyers, CPS workers, any state agent. No. Because I'm going to tell you, if I ever ran this country, there wouldn't be no CPS until we got the right people in there to do the right thing. And if they mess up, I would give them my personal line and they would be fired.
Well, let's hope that day comes one day soon. And I can say that I knew you first with Darren.
If my brother-in-law would take my advice and run for president, I'm going up in the White House. But I did tell him he's got to pardon me first because I will not pass the security.
You won't wear a dress. Oh, I thought you said you wouldn't wear a dress. All right. Well, we have like 3 minutes left, even though we were late today. But I asked Grace. I said, "Hey, Grace, I'm with my kids right now in Vegas. Can they come on at the end and say hi?" She's like, "Nope, they're minors." I'm like, "Yeah, I figured." My middle child, Colton, he was all for it. You saw him yesterday or the day before, whenever that was.
You got a beautiful
Carter said hi. Oh, thank you. Carter said hi today to Tiffany on Facebook Messenger real quick before. And then he's like, "You got to excuse me. I think my dad is making me go rub his feet." He's like, "Mother, isn't this your job?" I'm like, "Nope, you're voted in right now. I'm going to go do a show." Yeah, no, they're all for this show that I always say that I'm doing and stuff. And, again, I just try and keep them pumped up because, they sometimes lose the faith. Are we ever coming home? It's really sad. But
well, the good
I guess
thing
I'm more fortunate. Yeah.
They're old enough to say where they want to live.
Oh, believe me. But see, Mr. Davis says that it doesn't necessarily just work so black and white like that. They're at a certain age where the judge would consider their wants, but it's not like, oh, the kid walks in, says, "Judge, I want to go back home." And they're like, "Okay, go back home." But, again, that would pull a lot of weight, he said. No, yeah.
The point is they're old enough to say where they want to live.
Yeah. Oh, they've said it in enough ways, if you know what I mean, by where my mom has now almost basically threatened to get rid of their asses because they've stated it so much. But because, again, they're old enough to see everything now. I mean, she straight up tells them that they're going to juvenile hall. And one day my kids goes, "Mom, what's juvenile hall?" I'm like, "Why?" "Well, because that's where Grandma says that she's going to send us if we keep doing this, this, and this." And I'm like, "Excuse me? That's jail." And their look on their face was like, "What?" And you know what? As sad as it sounds, I don't put anything past my mom nowadays. I wouldn't even be shocked if that's one day where she wanted to take them. But you know what? I told the kids, I said, she's getting burnt out of you guys as well. So I go, that could be a good thing in our favor. So just don't make it go that far, please. Because if you do get sent away somewhere, it would make it that much even harder for me to one day get you guys back home. So, but shit, it's going on 5 years. And these are like going to be their prime years. They don't do any extracurricular activities, no sports, nothing. It's like they live on their own, but my mom is there to provide a roof over their head. They wake up on their own in the morning. They go to school by themselves. They come come home. She probably doesn't even ask them how your day was, and it's just, that's it. And then when she gets mad, my mom tells kids they can't talk to me. I'm like, how does that even make sense? But anyway, I go on and on about my story. You guys know that. Hopefully it will be somewhat positive in the near future, but we can only see, I guess. So it's about that time. You guys want to say any final thoughts before we let your field trip end?
No, go ahead, Darren.
Darren's reading away.
Just
You
keep
always know what
fighting,
Darren.
people. Just keep
You always
fighting.
know what.
Don't forget, check out our channel, www.youtube.com
Yes.
/abolish CPS. We got Tiffin the Punisher on every night, Monday through Thursday. We got CPS Victims Hunting Justice from Monday through Fridays at 9, 10, 15. We've got Unmasking Foster Care Corruption. We got Bringing Back Brenda. We've got all kinds of gunning for CPS. We got a ton of shows. So come on.
What
over,
about you
check it
coming
out.
back on Mr. Davis's platform? I thought he wanted you to do a
we
show
got to
again.
talk about that. We'll talk
Okay.
about that, but we'll see what we'll go from there.
Okay.
Talk and figure out what we got to do.
I keep bugging him. I keep telling him that we should do a show like we did before, the 7:00 show with me, you, and him. And when Mike Bartz wanted to come along for the ride for a little bit of time
he
that was
died.
kind of.
Mike Bartz died.
No, he did not.
Yes, he did. 2 weeks ago.
From what?
I'm not even going to tell you who was with him at the end and what happened, but I bet you could figure it out yourself. Anyway.
Oh, why did you have to say it right then and there? Leave us with that thought. Wow. Well, rest it. Well, he's been on my mind a lot, actually. And just speaking of that, like 2 weeks ago was about the time that I was looking up videos of the past and showing them to my husband. Isn't that kind of eerie? Mike Bartz died. The guy that was real, like the millennium one, the baby boomer one.
7 days a week.
No, he did Men in the Trenches. Okay, well, we're probably making Grace be mad because we're going over. Wow. Well, rest in peace, Mike. That's really kind of sad. But natural causes, or you don't know?
No, he died because of that tumor in his head.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was that still like life threatening.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess it was that and not the other example that he showed on the very first show that he came on. Remember that one?
Yep, I sure do.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, everyone, on that note, keep fighting, and I'll be back next Wednesday at 5 p.m. And if you want to be a guest, you can call in, get scheduled. If not, I'll hopefully have my 2 co-hosts with me again, and we'll see you then. Have a good night, everyone.
Great.
Thanks, Tiffany. Thanks, Darren. Yeah, you got to get music for us too. Okay, bye. See you next week.